Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Across the viewing area, that rain's starting to move into the triangle. I'll show you when you'll see rain and how much coming up. And firefighters in Raleigh fought a fire that brought down power lines around 1 o'clock this morning. What we've learned from the scene in a Raleigh neighborhood.
And more relief is on the way for survivors of Helene in our state. This morning, the bill state senators are expected to advance today. A lot of people obviously need a lot of that aid right now. It's something we're talking about extensively, and I think even President Biden's pushing for a little more aid help. We'll get to those stories and more. Thank you so much for joining us here on WRAL News on Fox 50. I'm Chris Levingood.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Starting off a little cloudy this morning. Elizabeth just showed us the radar. We do see that rain pushing in, but it's not going to be a total washout, right? We're going to see just scattered showers today. There's going to be a period. You can see the rain back to the west that it rolls in, and it's going to be on the steady side. That's going to happen in the next hour to 2 hours, all the way through around lunchtime. And then it's really just going to be fairly light and scattered. That's what we've been seeing this morning down in our southern counties. We'll zoom in here and you can see some showers that have been falling in Sanford, down through parts of Harnett County, past Fayetteville, Clinton. It's pretty wet in Clinton right now. We'll move it up to the north because we're starting to see that first little bit of rain moving over toward Chapel Hill and Hillsborough. And it's going to start to fill in some of these heavily traveled areas as we get through the sort of the latter half of the commute this morning. Pulled up Chapel Hill just to see. It looks like it's raining just yet. Showing up on the radar, but doesn't look like any of that is reaching the ground yet, but it will here probably within the next 15 minutes. Our cold front is still back across the mountains, and so we're going to see rain ahead of this front until it moves through, and that may not happen until around midnight. Here's a look at where we see some steady rain right around the triangle. Bulk of the viewing area, say between 9 and around 1 or 2 o'clock, and then a little bit of a break, and then after that, just some rounds of light patchy rain. All total, we're probably looking at 1/4 of an inch or less. You can see where it's pretty wet here in Clinton right now. Our temperatures have been warm this morning, 63 degrees in the triangle. We have our southwest wind at around 8 miles per hour. And hour by hour, we're looking at 71 for the high this afternoon. After the front comes through, we're going to be dealing with some cold wind chills the next few mornings. I'll show you coming up, Ken.
Elizabeth, at 8:02, that crash I've been watching in Holly Springs just cleared it just a few minutes ago, but we're still seeing a little bit of lingering delays around Highway 55 and South Main Street, but nothing to worry about. No need to find an alternate route at this time. It's free and clear sailing there on Highway 55. Back here, a little closer to Raleigh, this crash on Wade Avenue not causing any problems in the immediate area, but we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown there at Wade Avenue and the Highway 70 split. I'll keep an eye on that and let you know exactly what's going on and whether or not it's going to continue to affect your morning commute. We're seeing these delays on I-885 heading into the Bull City this morning. You can see it right there. Those are the lanes coming off of I-40 West and people heading to the Bull City. Just check the sensors. You're looking at maybe a 6-minute delay heading into the Bull City, so keep that in mind as you're about to head out. Our friends from Wake Forest and all points north coming south on Capitol Boulevard, US 1, you know you're going to run into that congestion along with the traffic lights. So probably leave the house a little extra time than usual in the morning. The traffic is definitely beginning to pick up along the Beltline, the Northern Loop. These are the westbound lanes moving away from us, and the Southern Loop of the Beltline as well. Let's take you outside and show you what we're talking about. I-40 Lake Wheeler Road. Boy, that's flowing nicely compared to the last half hour. But if you're getting ready to head out, 101.5 HD3 will keep you updated.
All right, thank you, Ken. Breaking news, crews fought a fire that started around 1 o'clock this morning in Raleigh. It was on Honeysuckle Road off Old Wake Forest Road. The WRAL breaking news tracker was there as firefighters worked the scene around 2 o'clock this morning. Fire officials say power lines were down in the area. We are working to find out how much damage the fire caused and whether anyone is hurt.
We have a live look now at the legislative building where today the state Senate is expected to pave the way for more money for private school vouchers. We turn now to WRAL's Laura Levine. She joins us live from that building. Laura, Republican lawmakers say this will help 54,000 families on the wait list for vouchers.
Chris, good morning. The Republican-controlled House voted 72-44 to override Governor Cooper's veto. We know that today the state Senate must also vote to override this veto in order for the bill to become law. Many families and advocates have actually been protesting against this bill. House Bill 10 would clear a 54,000 student wait list to use a voucher to attend a private school and increase funding for the private school voucher program by $463.5 million. Public schools schools lose funding for every student who opts out of the public school and into a private school instead because public schools are funded by headcount. So Governor Cooper and other critics, they argue that schools, especially rural ones, have many operating costs and they'll end up with less money to cover them. Parents in favor of this program believe this is needed relief and opens up more school choice opportunities.
I don't have time to wait for the public school system to clean up their act and make the system work for my family. My kids are growing up right now, and we need choice today.
So the state Senate is expected to vote to override that veto and approve the funding for the program. Laura Levine, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
The bill also contains an unrelated immigration enforcement effort. Essentially, it would require sheriffs to comply with requests from federal immigration agents and detain people suspected of being in this country illegally. Republicans say it's needed to ensure public safety, but opponents argue it'll strain resources on sheriff's offices and hurt relations with immigrant communities.
Senate lawmakers are also expected to advance a bill today that would provide $227 million in relief for Hurricane Helene's victims. That bill also includes unrelated legislation that would strip power from incoming Democratic leaders. Late last night, the Republican-controlled House passed the bill over vocal objections from Democrats. The bill would remove the governor's control over the State Board of Elections. It would also limit the power of the Attorney General and eliminate state commissions that would be led by Democratic officers after this year's election. Democrats call this an abuse of power by the GOP majority. And the WRAL News team will keep you updated on all of the activity in the legislature throughout the day. Make sure to tune in during our newscast from 4 to 7:30 this evening over on WRAL.
Police in Wilson are working to make an arrest after a shooting that killed a man. Officers responded to Freeman Street just before 7 o'clock last night. When they got there, they found 30-year-old Fernando White Jr. had been shot several times. He died there on scene. We are working to learn more about what led to this shooting.
Parents in Wake County School may soon get notifications if a substitute teacher will be leading their child's classroom for 2 weeks or more. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live from the Wake School's headquarters in Cary. Kelsey, the school board's policy committee will consider that change today.
Yes, Michelle, they will. And in a few hours, Wake school leaders will meet here at the school board headquarters to talk about this. They're going to be considering a new protocol that could impact your student whenever they have a substitute teacher. So this new policy would require schools to notify parents if their child will have a substitute teacher for more than 2 weeks. This has already been a topic of conversation. School board leaders suggested that parents should be notified within a few days before a substitute starts. District leaders say that's already standard practice, but school board members say parents are not notified quickly enough. If this moves forward today, board members would vote on this November 26th. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Cary.
Today, the State Board of Elections will meet to consider questions about the results in the race for the next North Carolina Supreme Court justice. Democrat Allison Riggs appears to have won re-election in a very close race. Her Republican opponent, Jefferson Griffin, is calling for a recount. He's also suing the Board of Elections. He says they are not providing him with public records. More than 5.5 million people voted in this race. The final tally shows Riggs won by just 625 votes. A recount, just so you know, could take weeks.
Today, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis will call on lawmakers for immediate federal disaster relief funding for Hurricane Helene. Tillis is set to testify before the Senate Appropriations Committee. That hearing gets started at 10 o'clock this morning.
We do have news that we are following that broke overnight. The U.S. Embassy in Kyiv is closed the day after receiving information of a potential air attack on Ukraine. The embassy has told employees to shelter in place, and U.S. citizens elsewhere in the capital should be ready if an air alert is announced. Meanwhile, U.S. leaders say the Biden administration is sending anti-personnel mines to Kyiv to deploy for defensive purposes only in eastern Ukraine. Your time is 8:09 this morning. A story that moved the nation 30 years ago. It's back in the headlines today. The parole hearing happening today for Susan Smith, the South Carolina woman who drowned her 2 children.
And families of the victims in Club Q shooting in Colorado are suing county leaders. Why they're accusing the sheriff of failing to prevent the deadly nightclub shooting. And tracking some scattered showers today. Some of that rain about to move into the Triangle area. I'll show you the timeline for rain this morning and through the afternoon. Welcome back on your Wednesday morning as you look live over a very cloudy Chapel Hill, a busy Chapel Hill this morning. Rain is on the way. It's starting to push in. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner has a look around town. And we take a look at what's happening out there right now. It is wet here in Fayetteville, and it's just started to rain in Chapel Hill. The streets are just starting to turn damp. We're going to see more rain moving in from the west across our area. Apex will be next, and then Raleigh as we see this next band of showers moving through. So expect light patchy rain for much of the day. Right around lunchtime, say late morning into lunchtime, it may be a little steadier. And then, boy, the wind's going to start to pick up after this front moves through tonight, gusting 25 to 35. Highs starting tomorrow will be in the 50s, and overnight lows are going to be dropping into the 30s again. This is a look at dual Doppler 5000 radar. A good bit of rain falling here across parts of Moore County and Hoke County. Over toward Clinton, we're seeing some rain and just beginning to see some of that moving now into parts of Chapel Hill and even into Durham. So Southern Pines, Sanford, Clinton seeing some rain along with Dunn, and then Chapel Hill starting to move into Durham. So this is going to start to affect the morning commute. Fortunately, the heaviest part of the commute is probably over here at 8:15. Conditions will start to get a little bit worse out there on the roads in the next hour or so. Cold front still to the west. That front won't sweep through here until around midnight or so. And you can see the scattered rain showing up here on the radar around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That moves on out by around 1. And then we're just going to see isolated showers that roll through. Eventually, the front comes through late in the evening and we begin to clear before tomorrow morning. We check out what's happening in terms of how much rainfall. Very little, anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch is all we're going to see out of this system. And of course, it's been very dry. We need all the rain that we can get. We're looking at abnormally dry conditions for most of the state. After Helene, of course, it's been extremely dry. How often do we see drought after hurricanes? Meteorologist Chris Michaels coming up to talk a little bit about that. Snow potential, hey, we've got that going for us. Look at this, up into West Virginia, maybe even 1.5 feet. The mountains of North Carolina are under a winter weather advisory here. They could see a couple of inches and some heavier snowfall along the spine of the Appalachians there in West Virginia. Ski resorts will be happy about that. What we're going to see here is a good bit of wind that develops behind the front. So we take a look at that, 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So big changes coming, cooler and windier conditions. Keep that in mind as you're making your plans to be out and about on Friday and Saturday morning at around 7 o'clock. It could feel like 30 in Raleigh and 31 in Fayetteville. Could feel like 14 in Boone. That always makes you feel better, right? It's going to feel pretty chilly if you're going to be lining the parade route for Saturday's parade in downtown Raleigh. It'll feel like 35 degrees in the morning. It'll feel a little more comfortable later in the afternoon. And then a bunch of tree lightings Saturday between 6 and 7 o'clock. Temperatures will be in the mid 40s. It'll still be breezy, but nice and clear. Should be beautiful for that. And if you don't like it as cold, hold on. Thanksgiving looks a little bit warmer. Temperatures will be in the 60s. As a matter of fact, we've got 72 in the forecast for next week, but it does look like it's going to be a pretty chilly weekend. Ken?
All right, Elizabeth, happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center. We've got reports of Raleigh police working a crash on Capitol Boulevard near Highwoods Boulevard right now. We're not seeing any issues in that area, and I'll show you why. This is a live look courtesy of our live cam network. There you see the tow truck that just loaded on the vehicle there. It's beginning in the clearing phase, and you can see really it's in the median and not causing any problems for you in Capitol Boulevard this morning. So that's really good news to report. Elsewhere, we're seeing congestion building on many of our major roadways. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about this crash on Wade Avenue in Oberlin. Not seeing any particular issues in that area. That slowdown that we were beginning to see there on Wade Avenue in West Raleigh has really cleared up nicely, which is good. Isolating the Beltline this morning, you see the northern loop of the Beltline, those westbound lanes, the congestion that's usually building this time of the morning. And that southern loop, last time you saw the southern loop completely cleared like that. That's really good. So if you're coming in from Garner, Johnson County this morning, this is what you're going to be running into. Not much traffic. We're got a nice steady clip. You're getting ready to head out this morning. Tune us in on the radio. We'll always keep you updated on 101.5 HD3.
Thousands of people on the West Coast are without power this morning after a powerful storm slammed into the region. See that tree on top of that house? High winds brought down these trees on top of other homes and cars, too. Trees also brought down power lines that caused massive power outages across Washington, California, and Oregon. Authorities are calling it a once-in-a-decade cyclone. So far, one person has died after a tree fell on them. That happened at a homeless encampment. The National Weather Service says that high wind warnings will expire later today.
Parts of the state have not seen much rain since Helene hit back in September. Meteorologist Chris Michaels is joining us now to explain how tropical systems actually contribute to a decrease in wetter weather. Oh boy, wetter weather.
Right, try saying that 10 times. But yeah, there's a study from Florida State University that looked into that specifically. Droughts in the wake of hurricanes, actually pretty rare in this part of the country. They found that 4 out of 30 analyzed between 2000 and 2018 actually had that happen. Umberto, Isaac, Matthew, and Harvey were 4 of those storms. Helene might be one of those, and part of that has to do with the dynamics of tropical systems. On the western side is where you see sinking air. So in the wake of some of these systems, you get a rapidly occurring drought. Here's Helene's path that it took in September. Now look at the current drought across states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. Thing is, the drought was already there. So did Helene make it worse? That's something that's going to be studied, I think, within the next few weeks, months, and potentially even several years. But for our purposes, let's bring it back home. Before Helene, Raleigh got about 2 feet of rain in the 2 months prior to the storm. We've seen about 2 inches since. It does look as though things turned wetter, not just today, but potentially heading into next week. We've got that early outlook on WRAL.com.
Look for that, Chris. Thank you. New this morning, a New York City police officer is recovering after they were shot last night in Queens. A bystander was also shot, and a suspect, is dead. Officers responded to reports of several robberies in the area. And when 2 officers got to the area, a man who fit the description, they say, of a suspect. The man shot one of the officers in the leg. The other officer returned fire, hitting that man. He died at the hospital. Investigators say a woman in the area was also shot in the leg, but she's expected to be okay.
It was a story that shocked the nation 30 years ago. Susan Smith rolled her car into a lake with her 2 children inside and watched them drown. Amy Kiley shares more about the possibility of parole in a hearing later today.
I have been dreading this year for almost 30 years.
A story that moved the nation in 1994 is back in headlines today. Susan Smith is up for parole in South Carolina. She's convicted of murdering her 2 sons by strapping them in her car and letting it roll into a lake. Some still remember 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex as America's children.
Please bring them home to us where they belong.
It's now apparent Smith lied when she originally claimed a man had stolen her car with the boys inside. The result, an outpouring of sympathy and a widespread search.
Team up with somebody and go from there.
And then her trying to get away with it for 9 days, trying to lie and cover it up. I still think she should have got the death penalty.
Smith is serving a life sentence after confessing to the murders. The man who prosecuted her case says the jury didn't know she'd be eligible for parole someday.
Unfortunately, back then, not only did life not mean life, you could not tell the jury that, because as I recall, 30 years ago, they came back with, questions of would she be eligible for parole.
The boy's father says Smith getting out of prison now would be an injustice.
I'll never forget Michael and Alex, and I will always miss them.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
In her confession, Susan Smith wrote that she was at her lowest when she let the boys go in the lake without her.
Families of the 2022 deadly nightclub shooting in Colorado are suing the club owners and the sheriff's office. In lawsuits filed earlier this week, the family says that shooting could have been prevented if authorities had used the state's red flag law. It allows firearms to be taken from people who are deemed dangerous. Family members allege the sheriff ignored the shooter's violent history. They are also suing the club owners for inadequate security on the night of the shooting. Tuesday marked the 2-year anniversary of the attack that killed 5 people and injured 19 others. Your time is 8:22. Holiday preparations are underway at Amazon's new fulfillment center in Fayetteville. We got to look behind the scenes there. A 1.3 million square foot facility opened in June, so this will be its first holiday season. Amazon's next big shopping event starts tomorrow with the start of Black Friday week. The facility is already seeing business pick up.
As an inbound cross-dock, we are pretty busy already as we are working to fill the shelves in anticipation of Black Friday. So we've seen about a 50% increase in our business already.
In case you have not seen it, hard to miss, the new facility is on Bragg Boulevard.
Join WRAL for a Triangle tradition as we kick off the holiday season with a live broadcast of the 80th annual Raleigh Christmas Parade. We'll bring you all the area's marching bands, local businesses, dazzling floats, and everyone's favorite, Santa Claus. Don't miss a minute of the excitement. Get into the holiday spirit and watch this Saturday morning starting at 9 a.m. on WRAL. Well, state lawmakers are one step away from providing more aid to survivors of Helene. Just ahead, why Democratic leaders are also calling this bill a power grab.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey. Happy Wednesday. We are starting to see a little bit of rain. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner showing us exactly where it is on the radar right now.
You know, we've been pretty lucky in the Triangle where we have a lot of heavy traffic that we haven't seen a whole lot of rain yet, but it's really starting to ease into the area. Starting to see some showers in Chapel Hill and now in Durham. And so that does cover some of those busier roads. And of course, it's 8:30, so the traffic should be winding down soon as the rain starts to pick up in coverage. We take a live look at Chapel Hill, and it is wet. The showers are fairly light, but the roads are certainly turning wet as that rain starts to move in. It's a warm start this morning. Temperatures in the low to mid 60s, 64 Tarboro, 61 degrees right now in Irwin. Rain chances around lunchtime, 60%, and then about a 40% chance later on this evening. It is going to be a warm day. Our temperatures as kids are getting out of school will be in the low 70s, Ken.
All right, Elizabeth, things are definitely beginning to pick up on many of our major roadways this morning, including 885 heading into Durham, as well as the Beltline and those Highway 64, 87 lanes coming in from Zebulon this morning. Of course, US 1, that's always a trouble spot coming in from Wake Forest. In terms of the delay times, here's what you're looking at, the real trouble spot. US 1 coming in from Wake Forest, you're looking at an 11-minute delay this morning. Things are really beginning to pick up on US 1 coming in from Apex and All Points South. Of course, I'll have an update on your morning commute in the next few minutes over on Fox 50.
Thanks, Ken. Crews fought a fire that started around 1 o'clock this morning on Honeysuckle Road in Raleigh. Officials say power lines were down in the area. We are working to find out how much damage was caused and if anyone was hurt. Next on Fox 50, the new policy Wake school leaders are considering to notify parents quicker about absent teachers. And next on Today, SNL star Bowen Yang on his role in the Wicked movie.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Tracking some rain that's starting to move into the Triangle area. Now this rain's going to be with us on and off for much of the day. I'll show you the timeline.
And a bill that could help more families afford private school is one step from becoming a law. The vote happening today that would override the governor's veto of a voucher program.
And Wake County parents could begin to be notified when their child's teacher is out of the classroom long term. The talks for a new policy about substitute teachers. We're going to go over that for you this morning with a report. Thank you so much for joining us here on WRAL News on Fox 50. We have made it to Wednesday. Proud of us.
Yes.
Good on us. I'm Chris Lovingood.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Yes, halfway through the week, we are starting to see a little bit of rain push into the area. Not behind us, but Chapel Hill and Durham and our southern counties. Elizabeth, starting to see that rain.
Here it comes. Starting to move into the Triangle, Chapel Hill and Durham, and it's likely to fill into Wake County here over the next 30 minutes or so. So far this morning, the bulk of it has been down to the south. We'll zoom in here, and you can see from Sanford to Southern Pines and Carthage. Fayetteville's had some showers. Dunn seeing some rain right now, as well as Clinton, and that's going to be lifting on up into Johnson and Wayne counties. Here's a look at the Triangle, looking at Chapel Hill and Durham, seeing some of these showers. And again, there's plenty of it back to the west, so it's going to start to fill in across parts of Chatham and Wake County as well. Here's a live look at Chapel Hill, seeing some light rain. None of this is likely to be terribly heavy. The cold front itself is still back into the mountains, and we will see light scattered showers up until the point that the front moves through, which could be as late as midnight tonight. At around 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, we're going to see some waves of rain that move through. Some of that might feel steady at times, and then we're just back to some isolated showers on through the afternoon, through the evening commute, and there's 8 or 9 o'clock. It just continues all day. It's going to be cloudy, and it'll be just wet on and off. Here's a live look at Clinton, where we're seeing some showers falling right now. 63 is our temperature in the Triangle. We have a southwest wind at 8 miles per hour, so we are warm, but that wind's going to shift to northwesterly and cool things off after the front comes through. 71 for the high temperature. I'll show you just how much the temperatures will fall this evening. Coming up, Ken.
Elizabeth, at 8:32, all new into the WRAL Traffic Center. We're working this crash this morning in Garner. It's right near Rand Road. We're not picking up any delays in that area for right now, but I just wanted you to know about it because I know many of you use Garner Road as an option to come into the capital city this morning. Here's a question. I-87 in the southbound lanes near New Hope Road. We're not picking up any delays in that area, which is good news for you guys coming in from Nightdale. This crash on Capitol Boulevard really is in the clearing phase. It really should have been cleared by now because we just checked the traffic maps and there's really nothing to worry about there. You're still seeing the lingering delays there in Capitol Boulevard, but that's a combination of the increased traffic and the stoplights and traffic lights there on Capitol Boulevard. Isolating the Beltline this morning, you can see a lot of congestion building on the northern loop of the Beltline. Those are the westbound lanes that you're about to see moving away from us this morning. Even though it looks fire red on the map, but you can see traffic is definitely moving at a nice steady clip there on that northern loop of the Beltline. You're getting ready to head out this morning. We always got you covered. Tune us in on the radio, 101.5 HD3. You can listen to us anywhere in the Triangle.
Crews fought a fire that started around 1 o'clock this morning in Raleigh. It was on Honeysuckle Road off Old Wake Forest Road. The WRAL breaking news tracker was there as firefighters worked this scene around 2 o'clock this morning. Fire investigators say power lines were down in the area during this, and we are working to find out how much damage this fire caused and whether anyone was injured.
Today in the state legislature, where you are looking live right now, the second of two votes is happening to override the governor's veto of a private school voucher bill. As WRAL's Laura Levine shares, the bill would increase funding by hundreds of millions of dollars. This bill would increase funding.
The Republican-controlled House voted 72 to 44 to override Governor Cooper's veto. So today, the state Senate would also have to vote to override in order for this bill to become law. Now, we know many families and advocates have been protesting, pushing back against this bill. House Bill 10 would clear a 54,000 student wait list to use a voucher to attend a private school and increase funding for the program by $463.5 million. Some students are already attending a private school, but without the tuition voucher, of course. So now public schools would lose funding for every student who opts out of the public school and into a private school instead, because public schools are funded by head count. Governor Cooper and other critics argue that schools, especially rural ones, have many operating costs, and they'll end up with less money to cover them.
Instead of sending billions of tax dollars to wealthy families, why can't our tax dollars improve teacher pay, provide HVAC repairs, and hire more bus drivers?
Meanwhile, supporters of this bill do believe that it is possible to have well-funded public schools while also having robust school choice options. Now, we know today the state Senate is expected to override that veto. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
And the bill also contains an unrelated immigration enforcement effort. It would require sheriffs to comply with requests from federal immigration agents and detain people suspected of being in this country illegally. Republicans say it is needed to ensure public safety. Opponents say it'll strain resources on sheriff's offices and hurt relations with immigrant communities.
Lawmakers in the Senate are also expected to advance a bill today that would provide $227 million in relief. This is money for Hurricane Helene's victims. That bill also includes unrelated legislation that would strip power from incoming Democratic leaders. Late last night, the Republican-controlled House passed the bill over vocal objections from Democrats. The bill would remove the governor's control over the state board of elections. It would also limit the power of the attorney general and eliminate state commissions that would be led by Democratic offices after this year's election. Democrats call this an abuse of power by the GOP majority.
This is a transparent power grab pushed through by a supermajority that's not happy with the recent election results, and you're calling it a disaster relief bill. This is shameful, and Western North Carolina isn't going to stand for it.
The bill would also change voting laws. It would give election workers less than 3 days rather than 9 to research provisional ballots. Those are the types of ballots that give Democrat Allison Riggs a small lead over Republican Jefferson Griffin in the state Supreme Court race. Just a reminder, folks, the WRAL News team will keep you updated on all the activity in the legislature throughout the day. Make sure to tune into our newscasts from 4 to 7:30 this evening on WRAL.
A man wanted on attempted murder and multiple weapons charges is behind bars in Lenoir County this morning. And now deputies are looking for a woman who was last seen with him. This here is 33-year-old Stacy Mitchell, who is from Kinston. The Lenoir County Sheriff's Office says she was last seen on November 13th with Ryan Everett. Everett was arrested yesterday. He is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 6 counts of shooting into a vehicle. He also faces charges in Greene and Wayne counties. Anyone with any information on where Mitchell could be should call the Lenoir County Sheriff's Office.
Parents in Wake County schools may soon get notifications if a substitute teacher will be leading their child's classroom for more than 2 weeks. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey shares that leaders want to alert parents faster if their child's classroom does not have a full-time teacher.
Today, Wake school leaders will meet here at the school board headquarters to talk about a new protocol for when your student has a substitute teacher. They will consider adopting a new policy. This would require schools to notify parents if their child will have a substitute teacher for more than 2 weeks. This has already been a topic of conversation. School board leaders suggested that parents should be notified within a few days before a substitute starts. District leaders say that's already standard practice, but school board members say parents are not notified quickly enough. If this moves forward today, board members will have their first vote on this November 26th. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Cary.
President-elect Donald Trump is making more picks to fill out his cabinet. Trump tapped Dr. Mehmet Oz as his choice to head the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The former TV talk show host ran unsuccessfully for Senate in Pennsylvania in 2022. Trump also named Linda McMahon as his pick for Secretary of Education. McMahon led the Small Business Administration during Trump's first term. She is the wife of pro wrestling mogul Vince McMahon. And for Commerce Secretary, Trump is nominating Howard Lutnick. He is the CEO of financial services company Cantor Fitzgerald.
A live look this morning at the U.S. Capitol, where today the House Ethics Committee will meet. It is facing increasing pressure to release its report on President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General Matt Gaetz. The committee has been investigating allegations of sexual misconduct and illicit drug use against Gaetz. He resigned from the House last week after Trump chose him for Attorney General. His nomination for Attorney General would require confirmation from the Senate. Senators have called for access to the report's findings as they decide whether to approve him.
Starting tonight, a section of I-40 in Durham will close overnight as crews complete preservation work. NCDOT says I-40 west at Fayetteville Road will close tonight and tomorrow night, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's weather permitting. That's exit 276, which is the exit for streets at South Point. Drivers will have to take a detour. Well, coming up, a pickup truck slammed into a concrete pillar after the brakes stopped working. Coming up, see the moments police in Ohio sprang into action, saving the man's life seconds before it exploded.
Plus, 3 people are going around breaking into gas stations in Colorado. This morning, the search for what authorities are calling the Panda Bandits.
And we'll take you live out to the DBAP this morning. It's cloudy. Durham starting to see a little bit of rain. Make sure to grab your umbrella as you head out the door. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is back after the break, tracking the timing of when all the rain rolls in.
Good morning, Clinton. How you doing? We have a cloudy skies as you're waking up this morning here, and I think a lot of us remember saying, rain, rain, go away, come again another day. I have some interesting news for you. Today is the another day. We've got Elizabeth Gardner tracking that system pushing across our area right now this morning.
I loved it. They had their Christmas decorations up too there, looking good there in downtown Clinton, but it has been wet there. We've had this band of rain for the last couple of hours sitting right over Clinton. Here's a look at the big picture. We do have some showers starting to work their way into the triangle, plenty of rain in the Sandhills, and that's where it's been for most of the day. So from Carthage to Southern Pines to Rayford, about to see another band coming right through Fayetteville. Like I said, Sanford, Pittsboro. We're going to move up to the north here, and you can see the rain that's moved into Chapel Hill and Durham, heading into northern Wake County. There's plenty of rain back to the west. The rain is not likely to be heavy for very long. You might have a few periods where the rain is coming down fairly steady, but it's not all going to move through until this cold front does, and that's not going to happen until closer to midnight. overnight. So out ahead of this front, just scattered showers are going to be cruising through. Some of the heavier rain that we may see with this system happens from now up until around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But even that's going to be fairly scattered. That's 1 o'clock. You can see that moving through. And then potentially a bit of a break into the afternoon and a few more waves come through around the evening commute. That's 6 o'clock. Another one there around 9 or 10. And then eventually we start to clear things out. Well, once we clear out, that cold air is coming our way. Here's a live look at Durham, and it is wet here. Some showers have started to fall. Don't expect, even though the duration of this is going to be really long, from now all the way to midnight, the amount of rain that we see is going to be pretty small, maybe a quarter to even a tenth of an inch. 63 is our temperature in the Triangle now. We'll climb to 72 in Raleigh, 71 in Durham, and 75 in Fayetteville. Chilly mornings coming our way. Our normal low is 39, 37 on Friday, 37 Sunday, otherwise low 40s. Going to be really chilly. There's a lot of cold air behind this. Denver's down to 17. The temperature there just keeps on falling, and as that front moves through, we're going to see that cold air moving on in. So there's a chance for some frost on Friday, frost or a freeze. Saturday looks a little less like a chance, and then a little better chance again on Sunday. Sunday, that's an update to Sunday. Again, it's maybe just a few spots. It is going to be windy with this system coming through. Tonight, winds start to gust at 25 to 35, and that will be the case all the way through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And with those chilly mornings, that wind chill is going to be biting. This is a look at the wind chill. This evening at 7 o'clock, it'll feel like 60. Not bad, but we drop down to 39 at 3 a.m. tomorrow and 37 at 7 a.m. If you're going to be out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., it's going to feel like 37. On Saturday morning for the parade time, about 9 o'clock, it's going to feel like 35. But it is going to be sunny. We'll have the sunshine, find the sunny side of the street and hang out there. We hope to see you down there or on WRAL at 9 o'clock for our coverage of the Christmas parade. We do see warmer temperatures getting into next week, Tuesday, 72.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. This morning, New York City firefighters are monitoring hot spots that they were actually putting out a large brush fire in a park. That's why they had to watch this. The fire sparked yesterday afternoon in a park close to the Harlem River. And at one point, fire investigators say the flames stretched about 15 football fields. A brush fire sparked in Manhattan last week as the city remains under a drought warning there.
Oh, this is so heartbreaking. We are hearing from people who knew Erica Holton and her 19-year-old son, Xavier. They and Xavier's girlfriend, 19-year-old Amina Guy, were found shot to death inside a home in Cary on Monday. An NC Central student shared video of happier times with Xavier. In a text message, she told WRAL that he was the most kind-hearted person you'll ever meet. His mother, Erica Holton, was a performer at a local open mics nights where she was known as Miss E. The pastor at Church of the Rock in Raleigh told us about how people will remember her.
She was a part of our music team when she was a member at our church, and was just a dear member of our congregation.
WRAL learned Xavier Holton was the driver behind the wheel of a car that crashed on the Beltline earlier this month. His girlfriend's mother believes that he struggled with mental illness.
Newly released body camera video shows the moment police in Ohio saved a man from his burning truck moments before it exploded. Look at this. According to Columbus police, the driver called 911 to report his car was speeding and his brakes failed. It later slammed into a highway pillar and caught fire. The driver even asked the dispatcher to tell his wife that he loved her because he thought he was going to die. That's when officers arrived and rescued him seconds before the explosion. He's now recovering at the hospital, and officials are investigating the accelerating and braking issues with this truck. Police in Colorado are working to identify 3 gas station burglars, including one wearing a panda costume. Boulder County deputies are calling them the Panda Bandits. Investigators say they have been involved in 2 separate smash and grab thefts at gas stations. They're stealing vapes and tobacco. Deputies say they believe these bandits are either teenagers or young adults.
This week's Teacher of the Week had aspirations of being an international corporate attorney when she started college. Then her journey took a different turn, majoring in Spanish and political science. WRAL's Ken Smith introduces us to an educator who has been practicing her craft in the classroom for 20 years.
Vamos a empezar con Locotubre y votar.
Suzanne Donders is a Spanish teacher at Apex Friendship High School.
Primero vamos a hacer Locotubre.
Learning a foreign language is difficult enough as it is, made easier though by her approach to teaching.
Como Se defina.
Se defina. ¿Cómo se define?
Se defina.
She's saying for her, teaching is about relationships. It's important for her to get to know her students and for them to get to know her.
Cito de la canción. What is this song about?
Dounders got her start in teaching through the lateral entry program in Durham and quickly discovered she really enjoys teaching.
I went back and got my master's in teaching. I got my master's in teaching English as a second language and Spanish, and have been teaching ever since.
How many years?
This is year 20.
Downer says the ultimate rewarding part of teaching are those lifelong relationships she's formed with her students over the years that begin with helping her students master a foreign language.
We got to try, we got to take risks. It's through that struggle, through those errors that we really get to being able to communicate.
Ms. Donders.
Hi.
You are WRAL's Teacher of the Week. Give her a hand.
Wow.
Ken Smith, WRAL News.
Oh, how fantastic is she? That's amazing. If you'd like to nominate a teacher, go to WRAL.com and enter Teacher of the Week in the search box.
Jeff Hogan in the WRAL Live Center with an update to a story we've been following for you today. Ukraine is accusing Russia of making a fake warning about a massive airstrike into their country today coming from Russia. Now, they determined that this was fake because, like many scams, the message was spread on social media, but it contained a lot of grammatical errors that they say are typical of Russian misinformation. This is coming out of Ukraine's top spy agency. The U.S. and some other Western embassies in Kyiv had said that they would stay closed today for security reasons. And this is all coming in right now as Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said the Biden administration will allow Ukraine to use American-supplied anti-personnel landmines to help fight off Russian forces. A very typical admission there.
As it escalates. Thanks, Jeff. A new Barbie is hitting shelves today, and this one honors an icon of the arts. Mattel is releasing a Rita Moreno Barbie doll. It's part of the company's tribute collection to honor trailblazing female figures. This one features a floor-length black and gold gown and a pair of black opera gloves. Mattel says the outfit was inspired by some of Moreno's iconic red carpet looks. The 92-year-old performer is one of 21 people to ever earn the EGOT title. That means she's won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and a Tony Award.
We're getting a first look at the live-action remake of an animated classic, and the stars of the Bob Dylan biopic are set to revive and receive an award for their work on the film. Here's David Daniel.
I can't kill dragons.
But you will.
Here's your first look at the live-action reimagining of the beloved animated adventure How to Train Your Dragon. The new version, filmed for IMAX, is due in theaters June 13th.
They knew there was a problem. And instead, they released data that suggested that there was no problem whatsoever.
Lead and Copper looks at how a lack of government oversight and cost-cutting measures led to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. Thousands of people were diagnosed with lead poisoning in one of the worst public health disasters in U.S. history. The documentary is now available on digital and VOD platforms.
I walked and I crawled on 6 crooked highways.
An honor for A Complete Unknown. Star Timothée Chalamet and director James Mangold are set to receive the Visionary Tribute at this year's Gotham Awards, December 2nd in New York. The Bob Dylan biopic opens in theaters December 25th. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And hey, before we go to break, here are the winning lottery numbers. And of course, we'll get you another check on weather and traffic coming up in just a bit.